Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and it's tier list time, and I wanted to tackle one that I've been asked a lot throughout the whole time I've been doing this, which has been a few months of tier list now, and that is to cover every single hero and Death Knight card in Hearthstone history. So I thought I would do that today. Again, as always, if in the comments below, if you want to suggest a tier list for next time, please let me know. I'm always open to suggestions, but this is one I wanted to get out there that's been asked a lot from a lot of different people. And before we get going, I do want to give another friendly reminder that about 62% or so of you that watch the channel are not yet subscribed. That number keeps dropping, so that's awesome. Thank you guys for that. But we're on the quest for 10,000 subs, so if you feel I've earned your sub, you enjoy the content, you want to be notified when it goes live, please consider hitting that sub button. It would help me a lot. Anyways, let's get going. Let's take a look at every single Death Knight in hero card in Hearthstone history. We're going to be rating them from S through F, S being god tier auto-include cards, and F being unplayable garbage you would not want to play in your deck. Be interesting to see, do we have any unplayable hero cards, Death Knight cards, because they have historically been just so unbelievably good. Let's start with Blood Reaver Guldan, 10 mana Warlock Death Knight, Battlecry, summon all friendly minions that died this game. Get a brand new hero power in Siphon Life. It's 2 mana, deal 3 damage, and it has lifesteal. So this card, when it was introduced, was actually not that good. It didn't see much play. It came out during the Frozen Throne, and Warlock was just not in a great spot. And people like Blood Reaver Guldan is one of the worst Death Knights. And then Kobolds and Catacombs came out, and Voidlord came out. And all of a sudden, you had demons worth resummoning. You had demons that would protect yourself when you would play this. And then you have that incredible hero power. And this card has been insanely good ever since in both Standard. During its time there, in Wild, yeah, it's been in Cube Lock. It's been in, like, Hate Lock. It's been in Reno Lock. It's been in so many different Warlock decks. It's incredibly powerful. It's got one of the best hero powers ever. It could outscale Fatigue for a long freaking time, where an Odd Warrior's hero power is not as good as the 6 damage swing that this thing would provide. And yeah, resummoning Voidlords, Doomguard, Mal'Ganis, all that stuff, so unbelievably good. And now, with cards like Expired Merchant, you can get multiple copies of them. Like, literally, like 4, 6, you can go crazy with how many Guldans you can get. Unbelievably good, S tier all the way. Next, we have Deathstalker Rexxar, the Hunter Death Knight. 6 mana, Battlecry, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. So it's like a 6 mana AoE, which was relevant, wasn't bad. And then your hero power is Build a Beast. It's 2 mana, and you get to craft a custom zombie. So you get to choose one beast, the first discover option, then you get to build, pick another one, and you merge their effect, their stats, mana cost, all that into one giant insane beast. And it could have lifesteal, it could have rush, all that stuff. And Rexxar is another one that when it was introduced was pretty much unplayable, wasn't very good. And the new expansion came out with kobolds, and it wasn't even updated for a new beast. And then I believe when the Witchwood came out, they heard us complain about it, so they added all the beasts to the pool for the remainder of the game. So whenever new beasts were added, they were added into it, and then it became really good because Lifesteal Rush came into the game, and all of a sudden Rexxar provided not only infinite value, but they could provide infinite healing, and you had cards like Dire Frenzy and Master's Call, and it was just incredibly powerful a good amount of time in Standard. But since his induction into the Hall of Fame, he hasn't really been that much of a menace there. He's good, don't get me wrong, but Hunter is just not ever that great in Wild. And Rexxar, when you play him, that kind of infinite value just doesn't work out. You don't care about infinite value in Wild. You care about doing a crazy combo or aggroing your opponent down. And he doesn't really accomplish either of those things. So during his time, he was like pretty much an S tier Death Knight. And for me, he's fallen all the way down to a B. Where, you know, he sees a bit of play in like Reno Hunter and stuff like that in Wild, but just not quite the insanity he used to be. Next, we have a mage Death Knight, Frost Lich Jaina. You can tell by her art, she hasn't been nerfed, and she has Battlecry of summon a 3/6 water elemental, and for the remainder of your game, your water elementals have lifesteal. And you gain the hero power, which is 2 mana, Icy Touch, Deal 1 damage if this kills a minion, summon a water elemental, and as your water elementals, or all elementals, have lifesteal, those will too. Frostless Jaina, in my opinion, is the most powerful Death Knight in the game's history. Yes, more so than Guldan. When you would play Jaina, you would win. Even against a Guldan, because if you play cards like Polymorph and just, you know, getting water elements, getting that lifesteal, you would just outvalue almost anything. It would outvalue Rexxar in the late game. It was just incredibly good. But as time has gone on and more support is out there for cards like Expire Merchant to get more stuff from your Guldan and all that, it's a lot less powerful than she used to be. But still, she's good in Reno Mage, in Wild, today. She was incredibly powerful in Standard. You even ran her in like Odd Mage, even though it would replace your upgraded hero power, because yeah, getting water elementals for 2 mana is so ridiculously good. I'm still giving her an S. I don't think she's as good as Guldan, but at one point I really felt that she was like the best Death Knight in the game. Next we have the Galakronds, 5 of them introduced during Descent of Dragons. We're starting off with the Rogue one. The Rogue Galakron is Galakron the Nightmare. All the Galakronds are 7 mana, and when they're fully invoked, they all invoke, so you have to invoke them twice to upgrade them. So you play 2 invoke cards, and every Galakron can be invoked or upgraded 2 times. So there's the first scale, the second scale, and the third scale. So for Rogue, the Rogue one, it starts off with draw a card, it costs 1, draw 2 cards, it costs 1, and draw 4 cards, it costs 1. And every Galakron fully invoked gets an 5/2 weapon for free, effectively. And yeah, the Rogue one used to be broken. The cards would cost 0, and it's unbelievably good. It would be an S tier hero card all the way. But now at 1, it's really fallen out of favor. When you play Galakron, you don't gain tempo with it anymore. You don't get to cheat out the minion. You have to set it up for the next turn. So this card did get nerfed. It was S tier, but man, it has fallen off. Even with its hero power of Galakron's Guile, adding a random lackey to your hand, it just, even though it's infinite value, and that can be infinite spells, dragons, it just doesn't really work out that much these days. Galakron Rogue is still playable. It's still a good deck in Standard, but for the most part, the Rogue decks are just better out there. So basically, the argument I'm making is that it used to be a God tier, S tier freaking card, and now it's just an A. It's still really good. Hell, people still play an Odd Rogue in Wild. It's still very solid. But man, when those cards cost 0, it was one of the most busted things you've ever seen. Speaking of unnerfed and busted, oh wait, this card was never nerfed, but anyways, we have the Shaman Galakron, Galakron the Tempest. Yes, the 3 forms are 2/2 Storms with Rush, 4/4 Storms with Rush, and 8/8 Storms with Rush. And the hero power of Galakron's Fury summons a 2/1 Elemental with Rush. And yeah, this card was insane when it launched at Descent of Dragons. Galakron Shaman was the best deck in the game by far. This Galakron, you could get the battle cry again with Shudderwalk, getting the 8/8s back, but the strength of it was how easy the invokes were. They were really cheap and really high tempo, so they nerfed literally all of them. And yeah, now this card's not so great. The Galakron itself is pretty good. Getting 16/16 in stats with Rush for 7 mana is ridiculous with the weapon, but turns out you don't have that reload in Standard with Shudderwalk, and getting those evokes, just, you kind of die doing that now in any format, and it just doesn't work out as well. But as a standalone hero card, it's still insane. Like, it's still crazy. The hero power is pretty weak, I'll give it that. 2 mana 2/1 hero power is not great. The invoke part of it's good, getting it for free. But yeah, clicking that button doesn't feel so great. So I guess I gotta notch it down to a B, considering Galakron Shaman just doesn't see play. But man, that card was ridiculous for its short reign of terror back early or late last year. Next we have the Warrior Galakron, Galakron the Unbreakable, battle cry. Draw 1 minion, give it +4/+4, then it's draw 2, and then draw 4. So they have 7 mana sprint, +16/+16. That's pretty freaking good. But the funny thing is, in Standard, Galakron is meta. It's running like Bomb Warrior right now. You don't run any invokes, so you literally don't care. Why don't you care? Because of the hero power of Galakron's Might, which gives your hero +3 attack this turn. That is a lot of damage. It turns your armor hero power that a lot of decks don't care about into just a ridiculous amount of damage that really no deck can deal with outside of, like, you know, Malfurion and Druid, which we'll get to. But yeah, it sees play in Wild and like Galakron Bomb Warrior. And as I mentioned, Galakron Warrior, even Galakron Warrior in Standard is not the worst. It's just better Warrior decks. Very powerful card, insanely good. Is it an S tier one? I won't give it that. because it's not like game breaking on its own, but it's definitely very solid, very high A hero card. So we have the Priest Galakron the Unspeakable. His battle cry starts off with destroying 1 minion, random enemy minion, and 2 random enemy minions, and then 4 random enemy minions. And then it has the hero power of Galakron's Wit, which adds a random priest minion to your hand, so it's infinite value. And recently kind of got cut for most priest lists. You don't see it a lot in standard right now. This is literally never seen play in wild outside of like niche decks. But you know, the battle cry itself was not the great part of it ever. It's always been the invoke, the infinite value, getting the priest minions, but with the amount of value generation priest has right now, they just don't need it. But it's a good card. It's seen a lot of meta play, and it still pops up in Galakron Priest, Highlander Priest in standard. So I'll give it an A, but it's definitely not at the level of these other Galakrons at the moment. Next we have Galakron the Wretched, the Warlock Galakron. As a battle cry of summoning 1 random demon, 2 random demons, and then 4 random demons. Has the hero power of Galakron's Malice, which summons 2 1/1 imps every turn, so not the most impactful hero power, but good in the early game. When it came into the game, people tried Galakron Zoo, but that didn't really pan out. But Galakron Warlock was a very powerful deck. It even got nerfed. It was good enough with Fiendish Rites getting nerfed. It was an invoke card, and yeah, saw a decent amount of meta play. Not so much ever in wild, but standard, a good amount of play. Galakron Warrior still pops up here and there in standard, but since the Sack Pack nerf in particular, just has really hurt the deck a lot. It doesn't really have that late game win value. Like Dragon Queen was a part of it. People ran Dragon Queen to make it work, but that got nerfed too, so that hurt it as well. People try a Soul Fragment build, but it just isn't good enough. It kind of got surpassed by Quest Warlock in the prior expansion. And this expansion, Warlock just isn't very present in the standard meta. And again, this card doesn't really see play in wild. But as a Galakron card, it's not particularly bad. And it got a good amount of a buff in the Ashes of Outland expansion with like all the big Demon Hunter demons and the Dormant Minion demons could do some good stuff. But yeah, kind of has fallen off. I'll give it a B. I'll put it above the Shaman one because yeah, the Shaman one literally never sees play. But Galakron still pops up a here or there for Warlock. Next we have Malfurion the Pestilent, Druid Death Knight, 7 mana. Choose 1, summon 2 poisonous spiders or 2 scarabs with taunt. The spiders are 1/2 beasts, the scarabs are 1/5 beasts. And then you get the hero power of Plague Lord. It's a choose 1 hero power. You either gain +3 attack or gain +3 armor. So kind of reminiscent of the Warrior Galakron hero power, and you get the flexibility of either gaining attack or armor, so incredibly good. And this Death Knight has been in like every Druid deck that goes into the late game pretty much always, pretty much since its inception. The notable exceptions would be Hadronox Druid. You didn't run it there because, well, you didn't want to summon any other beasts, and Malfurion would summon other beasts, so you wouldn't want to play it with that. And more recently, Malagos Combo Druid in Wild, because, well, that deck is a hyper combo deck and doesn't really want to play Malfurion to stay alive. You're just trying to combo as fast as humanly possible. But outside of that, like Jade Druid, Togwoggle Druid, other Malagos Druid archetypes, just incredibly good. Hell, you can put it into like a Spiteful Druid deck. Like it can go, it's so flexible. That hero power is insane, and just the 1/5 taunts or the 1/1/2 poisonous scarabs can be really effective. It's just a really good card. It's an S tier Death Knight all the way. I'm actually going to put it above Jaina because Jaina only really fits into like niche, like that Reno Mage archetype, whereas Malfurion is like in almost everything. Just so good. Next we have Scourge Lord Garrosh, 8 mana Death Knight for Warrior. Has the battle cry of equip a 4/3 Shadowmourne that also damages adjacent minions. And it has the hero power of Bladestorm, 2 mana, deal 1 damage to all minions. This has been noted as probably the worst Death Knight. I don't think so. I don't think it's the worst Death Knight. It's close though. It's not great. He hasn't seen a ton of play over the years. He mostly popped up into mainly... People tried him in like Control Warrior, didn't really work out, but Dead Man's Hand Warrior. He worked out all right in Dead Man's Hand Warrior. The Bladestorm's good with like your Acolytes, your Armor Smiths, stuff like that. The weapon is decent, but overall the hero power is pretty underwhelming. The battle cry was underwhelming, and it just didn't pop up into a lot of decks. And there's a reason they printed Dr. Boom Mad Genius, because, well, they wanted to give Warrior a playable card in that regard compared to the other classes. And yeah, just not quite good enough at all. I'm going to give him a C, but Do love him in my Dead Man's Hand Warrior. And speaking of him, we have Dr. Boom Mad Genius, the hero card for Warrior. 7 mana, you gain 7 armor. All the other hero cards, or Death Knights, always gave 5, but the flavor of our friend Dr. Boom Mad Genius gave 7 armor. And Battle Cry, for the rest of your game, your mechs have Rush, and then you got a myriad of hero powers that would rotate at random. You gain armor, microbots, you got Kaboom, which would deal damage, you could discover a mech. A lot of good stuff there, and he was really good in Standard for quite some time, and good in Wild. You put him in Odd Warrior. He was so good, so much that he got nerfed in 9 and then reverted back to 7. And yeah, he was an absolute menace. People hated this card. I love playing him because I gotta control the board and just bully people with mechs. I don't care. I liked it. I got rank 1 legend with him. Okay, leave me alone. Anyways. His power level's fallen off a bit. A big part of that is the discovery bonus going away, so when you get your discover a random mech, it's not really, you're not getting Devastator or Dynamatic all the time. You're getting all these crappy neutral options a lot of the time, and yeah, Boom doesn't see a heck of a lot of play. I've seen him pop up in like Dead Man's Hand Warriors lists and Odd Warrior lists here and there. He's still decent, still pretty good, but not like an S tier hero card anymore, but he's still prevalent in the meta in Wild, so I will give him that A, but yeah, he's definitely not the top tier hero card he once was. Next, we have the Hunter hero card, Zuljin. It's 10 mana, and it would recast all spells that you have cast this game, and then the targets are chosen randomly, so you cast Kill Commands, Animal Companion, Spellstone, Call the Wild, you name it, he'll recast it. If you've Zephyrist another class's spell, it'll recast that. And it was really good in like the Dire Frenzy decks, because you would cast a bunch like Unleash the Beast, and then you would Dire Frenzy it, and you like outvalue everybody. It was just insane in that deck, and some people even ran Zuljin and Deathstalker Rexxar for the ultimate value, just waiting to play Rexxar afterwards so you get the Build-A-Beast hero power, because, well, with Zuljin, your hero power was just deal 2 damage. But, unlike the Hunter one, you could target with it, so it's an upgrade, but not an amazing one, so yeah, really good hero card. Even in Wild, still sees play today in like Reno decks. A lot of people will choose to run Zuljin over Deathstalker because it has that immediate impact on the board. Some people will run both still, but good card, very solid, just not quite up to the level of the other guys. I'll put it with Rexxar. I think he's just below Rexxar. I still think Rexxar is a little bit better, that infinite value, and he had a bigger impact on the metagame overall, but yeah, definitely a decent hero card. Next, we have Shadow Reaper Anduin. Yeah, we all know this guy's nuts. 8 mana, destroy all minions with 5 attack or more, and then you get the new hero power that deals 2 damage every time, and you get refresh it every time you play a card, and with Raze it's 0, and even when it's not 0, this card is so good. The damage output you can get with a 2 mana hero power, like Big Priest would run Anduin and would get a lot of damage in, and they ran mostly expensive cards, like their cheapest cards like Shadow Visions and things like that. This card is just insane damage, good removal, incredibly powerful, win condition all on its own. Well, with Raze of course, just S tier all the way. I won't put it above Guldan, but it's got to be like the second best Death Knight in the game. Next we have the hero card, the amazing Reno. Battle Cry, you make all minions disappear. They poof, they're gone. Basically, they're just deleted from the game. They never die, they never existed. No death rattles go off, nothing's entered into the graveyard. So it's like the ultimate board clear ever in Hearthstone. The best board clear ever. Can't be stopped by a counterspell, can't be stopped by anything outside of a bully. A boom pistol bully can stop it, because then it costs 5 more. But yeah, it's a really good AoE. He's playing like Reno Mage in Standard. Some people do run it in Wild as a board clear, although the meta is really too fast for that these days. But yeah, it's good. The downside is its hero power. It's literally a downside almost usually. Its hero power it's a passive hero power that casts a random spell at the beginning of your turn. Any spell. It can totally screw you. You can cast a Cataclysm in Wild. It can Plague of Flames your board. Or it can do something ridiculously good for you, but overall, it feels like it's one of those random spell effects that typically is more of a downside than anything. And personally, I wish you just had a cool hero power that, because I love the card, I love that it's a good board clear, just why does the hero power have to go full stupid? Like, oh, but overall, it's a good card, it's a good board clear. Is it on the level of these Galakronds or Death Knights? No, but you definitely could throw it in your deck and do some good stuff. We'll give it a B. Next, we have Thrall Deathseer. I mentioned that a lot of people feel Warrior is the worst Death Knight. No. Thrall is the worst Death Knight. Thrall has Battlecry transform all friendly minions and ones that cost 2 more. And then you get a hero power of 2 mana, transform a friendly minion to a random one and 1 more. Even in Evolved Shaman, this deck wasn't great. Or this card wasn't great. Because you lost your totem generation. And you needed to have a board to make this good. And like, it just was never that great in any deck. Like, it only worked in that Evolved Shaman deck. And even then, that deck was never top tier. It was like tier 2, tier 3 maybe. And this card wasn't even a good part of it. Like, you had Doppelgangster Evolve. That was good. But 5 mana to get an Evolve effect was just bad. And this card's hero power sucked. To the point where I don't ever see this card see play, like, ever in Wild. And even in when people are playing Evolved Shaman, they typically don't even run this card. It's not good enough. So, you know what? I'm going to go off the board. I'm going to piss some people off. I'm giving Thrall an F. I think he's that bad. You don't run Thrall in any deck. Not even Evolved Shaman. Yeah, you can downvote the video, I guess. You're going to be mad at me. But I'm sticking to it. Something's got to get an F, right? Next we have Uther of the Ebon Blade. It's a 9 mana Death Knight, and you have Battlecry, equip a 5/3 lifesteal weapon, and then you have a Horseman hero power, where you randomly summon one of 4 Horsemen every single turn, and if you have 4 Horsemen on the board, you win the game. The game is over. Your opponent blows up. There's nothing they can do about it. They can have Ice Block, they can have 1,000,000 armor, doesn't matter, they blow up. And this card, for the most part, is hit and miss. There was like an Exodia Paladin in both Standard and Wild. The Standard one was really janky. You ran like pandas to bounce your horsemen into your hand so that you would have enough of them that you would eventually just play them all and then summon them. And that was pretty bad, but it worked. It was a meta deck. And then in Wild, you had like the Auction Master Beardo combo where you would get like you either discount 1 cost spells or get some coins. And, you know, then you play Beardo and you hero power 4 times in 1 turn. And neither of those decks have been, like, top tier, but they've been okay. They can do good stuff, and they wouldn't happen without Uther. However, I ran Uther in, like, an Anything Paladin variant, and people ran, like, just Control Paladin just for the weapon, the lifesteal. That's 15 lifesteal plus 5 armor. It's very relevant in those slower control decks. So he has seen his play in a myriad of different decks, but overall, pretty lacking in impact. Not the greatest Death Knight. I'll put him above Garrosh, but definitely not that great. I'll put him at a C, but I really do love the card. I think it's pretty wicked. And the last Death Knight we have here is Valeera the Hollow. 9 mana Death Knight. Battlecry gains stealth until your next turn. So your hero is stealth. You cannot be damaged or targeted. Well, it can be damaged if they have, like, say, arcane missiles. That'll hit you in the face, but you're relatively close to being immune. And then you get Death Shadow, which is a hero power that it's a passive, and every time you play a card, it adds a copy of that to your hand. So if you play, say, Zephyrus, you could play another Zephyrus right after. It's a shadow reflection of it, and you do that every turn. You get an extra copy of a card. So it's really good value. It was mainly, it really thrived in Quest Rogue and Kingsbane Rogue and Wild. So Quest Rogue, you would, like, just play giggling after giggling, or just, you know, Stone Tusk Boar. Like, you could just double up on your 4/4s, your 5/5, or it would be 4/4s. It was nerfed before it was ever 5/5s. But yeah, it was really good in those decks. And in Kingsbane Rogue, you could double up on your weapon buffs, and this was more of the mill variant, so you could Cold Light, or Cold Light Lab Recruiter, go infinite with that stuff. It just provided so many degenerate options and was really sick in those decks, but man, were they cancer. Man, were they unfun to face. But it's a really rad card, very value-based. Doesn't really ever see play in Wild anymore, which makes me sad, but had its time. I'll give it a C as well. It's kind of in that range where it saw play in certain decks. None of them were too meta-defining outside of Quest Rogue, but very solid. And we're going to leave off with an honorable mention. This is not technically a hero card. It's not technically a Death Knight. But for me, he's the OG hero card. And that's Lord Jaraxxus. He's technically a minion. He's technically a demon. He's a Warlock card. He's a 9 mana 3/15. But he replaces your hero with himself. And then you get your weapon, and you get to summon Abyssals every single turn. 2 mana 6/6 every turn. And he was infinite value in that regard. You set your health to 15, though you didn't get like a 5 armor or bonus like all these other guys. And yeah, these days you can't really play him anymore. You just kind of die if you play him. Even with the Sack Pack nerf, doesn't quite work out. but Jaraxxus was like the blueprint for what these hero cards eventually became, and he's just sick in flavor, really awesome, and I'm not going to give him an F because he kind of can be playable sometimes, whereas Thrall can kiss my butt. Anyways, let me know in the comments below, do you guys agree, disagree, and again, if you would like to suggest a tier list, let me know. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.